What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Surreal Body podcast with Zeke and Nick. We have a special treat for you today. Our guest today is the incredibly talented Dave Blanch. He is owner, artist of Blest Design in Sarasota, Florida. He's a visionary designer known for transforming spaces with a unique blend of artistic flavor and functional elegance. Dave has sold over 2,000 paintings, some of which are hanging on the walls of celebrities such as Theo Vaughn, Jacob E. Shaddux, and most recently, Russell Brand. The road has not always been glitz and glam, though, for Dave. Dave has persevered through some personal challenges in his life, and that success, though, has brought him to now over 2.5 years of sobriety and counting. Dave uses fitness, nutrition, and his God-given talent of creativity to bless those around the world with artwork. Get ready to be inspired. So let's dive in. Dave, welcome, my brother. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, I know that when we met, it was through an introduction, and I got to learn more about you. It was actually in the fitness space. And then at that point in time, when I came over to your house, you actually had Russell's artwork hanging on your wall. So that was
Yeah,
that was pretty cool to see it and touch it and feel it, and then like see it in a picture.
right. Yeah, now it's in England somewhere with him.
Right.
Super cool. Super
I thought
cool.
about that the other day. I'm like, see him hanging out in his private jet, and then his artwork's right over there. It's got to be a good feeling. Like, I mean, how when I help
That's
people with fitness and nutrition or weight loss, you think about them randomly, and you're like, yeah, they get to stand up again. They get to chase their grandkids again. Like with you, I mean, you're
right.
probably thinking, man, how many people are looking at this and then seeing it, and they're being affected by what I did.
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. It's like one of the best parts about my job is like, sometimes I love it when kids are involved for some reason. Like when I get to do like a kids' room mural or I've done murals at schools and stuff, and then to see the kids' faces come out and like just be so excited or um I mean it's sad and joyous sometimes, but like if somebody loses a loved one and I get to commit like do a memorial painting of that person or even a pet, you know what I mean? Like I'll paint the pet that they lost, and it brings happiness into people's lives. That sad times are good times.
Yeah,
So
brings a peace. I bet it does.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
I can speak to the kiddos because I know me and my wife at our, eye care office, we really focus, very kid centered. And yeah, there's something about the innocence of the kids. You throw a pair of glasses on and just see their eyes light up. And yeah, same thing with something like artwork when their excitement is genuine.
Oh yeah, it's pure. You know what I mean? There's nothing. There's, there's no thoughts going on inside. It's just what I
They
mean.
haven't been quite jaded by life yet.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which I think we all kind of need to get back to that space sometimes,
Whew, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
So have you always done art and painting professionally, or kind of when did that start? Where you started doing it for a living, where you're making money doing it?
The past 10 years. I mean, I've been doing it
Yeah.
my whole life, but past 10 years professionally.
So were you pretty artistic as a kid?
Yeah, I was always drawing ever since I was young. Then got into like spray painting, and that led to like airbrushing, uh, and then I would create here and there, but I was always just getting messed up. So it was like, I wasn't dialed in yet. You know what I mean? So it took a little. I had two kids, and then I tried tattooing, but I absolutely hated that. So then
Yeah,
after that's when I
tattooing
kind of,
seems like a very specific thing.
it's just, there's no room for error. You know what I mean? Like, if you're either good or you're not. So,
That's true, yeah.
a lot different than painting.
So what was kind of the coming to Jesus moment with the, sobriety? I mean, was there a specific moment? I know for a lot of people there is, sometimes kind of gradual. I mean, can you talk about kind of what that looked like?
I mean, I tried to start getting sober around 18, 19. Like, I went to my first rehab when I was like 18, 19, because I always knew I had like a serious problem. Um, especially with alcohol. Alcohol was always my main love and just
Yeah.
ruin. So I mean, over the like that was my just first of probably 13 rehabs, detoxes. Um, Spent like 3 years in jail, probably four mental institutions. You know, I was a basket case. You know what I mean? I was always just out there, just getting into as much trouble and as messed up as I possibly could. Like for about 20 years. You know what I mean? And I was always bouncing in and out of trying to get sober because I knew that was what I needed to do because I was just
Right.
constantly messing my life up. You know, and then I had my two kids, and I would get sober for them, and that, you know, didn't really pan out. You know, it didn't work out, and then I mean, it took me until I was, you know, 37, 38 years old
Yeah.
until I finally got it. You know.
No, it's kind of crazy how sometimes you know what you need to do, and the actual act of doing what you know you need to do is a whole another ball game.
Yeah, it's like I was able to pick up, you know, a ton of lessons and learn a ton through trying to get sober for that many years. But you know, I don't know. I guess everybody has that time where it just a flip, like just something switches, or I don't know. It's like a divine intervention of some sort where, you know, like
It is kind of like an internal switch, though. I mean, it's definitely a moment.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
It,
there was something different about this time. I don't know why. All those other times, I would always go to, you know, a rehab and then do the 12 steps and meetings every single day and all that stuff. So, I mean, I was grateful to learn all those lessons along the way that I learned from the rooms and stuff like that. But this time around, I mean, I had to detox myself because I had to lock myself in a room for 2 weeks because the cops had a warrant out for me. And I couldn't leave. I had to pretty much stay in there and detox myself. And I was like, I'm just so done. I'm never doing this ever again. But I never, after that, I never went to a meeting. I never went to anything else. I just knew this was my time. Um, and I just swore to God that I would never go back to living like that ever again. And I stuck to it. I mean, it was brutal coming out of that. You know what I mean? Like it took me, I don't know, a good 5 6 months to like start feeling somewhat normal again in the head, and then it was weird. Like around like 6 7 8 months, I started to feel um, like my brain receptors were just all mangled. You know what I mean? From all the different stuff that I was on. So I started just feeling like not hopeless, but like I couldn't find
empty.
enjoyment out of anything.
Yeah.
Like my dopamine levels were just completely just gone. And it wasn't until about a year to 11 months where everything started to kind of connect again. And I was like, wow, you know, this is amazing.
So where did like the kind of fitness stuff come into play there?
So around like that 6 7 8 month mark where I was feeling like that, I tapped into like running. There's like a bridge where I live. It's like 2.5 miles. I started running that every day. And I built like a little home gym in my back like patio. And I just started like working out 5 6 days a week just to get rid of the demons, really. You know what I mean? Just to like kind of that mind body spirit type deal. Like I was just trying to become the best version of myself that I possibly could. And when I saw the effects of working out um, for my mental health, it was just a game changer. You know what I mean? So it became a little bit of an addiction. Like I kind of, you know, I definitely took my addictive personality and put it into my craft and my business and my art. And on the same token with like fitness and working out and stuff like that. So like two good trade-offs, but now,
I mean, I personally
I,
think you almost have to do that. Like one of the things I talk about when it comes to food addiction, which, we'll talk about, and
yeah,
just habit change in general, if you ditch a bad habit and don't replace it, you leave a vacuum for something
right,
to take its place. And I mean,
right,
and
right.
if addiction is an issue, which I feel like I've dealt with very mild versions in my life,
Mm-hmm.
relatively speaking, uh, you have that's not going to go away. I don't think to a certain extent it's just not going to go away, and you
Right.
have to use it as a superpower, but you got to replace it with something, and you got to be doing it with some sort of consciousness and awareness that you're doing it.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think, like you said, that first 6 months was probably the big danger zone, I would imagine, especially if you haven't found those things to replace those bad habits with, because it's just
Yeah.
like
Because
it's
I mean,
just an empty space.
there's a ton of people. There's a ton of people like that you would meet that are sober, but they're miserable. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they're not filling that void with anything else, and that's what's most important, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a connection with your faith when you were locked in that room for 2 weeks?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I've always had a connection with God. Um, I mean, I grew up going to Catholic school, but I was, you know,
Same.
I, like I was just always getting in trouble. I was thrown out of 3 different high schools. Like I was just always that dude getting in fights and just getting in trouble. Um, but I always believed in God. And then one of my times of surrendering and trying to get sober, I went to in the middle of the ghetto in like South Philly. It was like a Christian recovery base, like house, and I stayed there for 9 months doing Bible studies every day and learning from one of the best teachers I've ever met. And I got baptized. This is a little over 10 years ago. Um, so, I mean, I always kind of like, I think of, I guess I'm Christian, but at the same time, I don't like putting labels on it. I don't really necessarily go to church or whatever. Like, I believe church is inside of you, and I spend at least, I try to pray all day long throughout my day, but I always spend at least a half hour just silent, just talking to God. And I believe having that personal relationship is what it's all about. Um, and I think of it more of like a Wi-Fi connection, like where, um, you know, I would always be praying when I was messed up or, not when I was not sober. And I mean, I might have had, a bar, maybe, barely two, now like full bars, you know what I mean? It's like I can see God working in my life constantly. Like when I
Yeah.
pray for something, like I see it, and it's like, it's the next level of just, tapping in.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like how you said that because I also grew up, Catholic. I did the Catholic school, private Catholic school from kindergarten to sixth grade, and before I went into public schools, and something never really, it just never really connected. And then, as I started growing up and dealing with life issues, that search for that kind of those Wi-Fi signals grew. I was needing it and wanting it, and
Hmm.
the whole Christianity thing, I like how you said kind of not putting a label on it, because I found that the traditional Christian faiths weren't quite getting me where I needed to go, and then I eventually started, the the Christian way of life is amazing, but there was too many boxes for me, anyways. But then you start actually learning the teachings of Jesus, and that's like the
Right.
ultimate guide, right? And
Yeah,
then
right.
finding out that it, kind of what he was saying was that it is inside of you. I am the Son of God. You are the Son of God, and that's where you can
Yeah.
start going into these non-denominational, kind of learning about spirituality and, the pillars of health,
Right.
mind, body, spirit. It's very hard to be a fully well-rounded person without the three. And I don't think you
Hmm.
necessarily need to have a specific religion, but you have to figure out that connection to that greater source, whatever it is, and however you want to learn
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Right.
And I think science is kind of getting there. We're starting to study consciousness and ask about the, reasons of life and quantum physics and all that. And we're realizing like, oh, we've
Right.
actually known this forever.
Forever. Right. 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 Yeah. It's it's that's too true. It's hilarious actually how it's people that are so science based,
Yeah.
or I spent a lot of time in circles around with like hippies, just eating acid and mushrooms and smoking DMT all the time, and it's like, yeah, you know, I get that whole side of it because I've done that half my life, but like that whole connected thing, it's really just God. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like everything is connected,
And
and
maybe some of those substances are amplifiers to wake you up a little bit, because I think there's a lot of
yeah,
good work going on in the psychedelic space with maps and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's a lot of
it
healing
definitely
that can
is.
come from that, area.
when it's when it's
But
when it's when it's done in like a sacred space, you know what I
right,
mean? Like I've gotten to the point where I would do it, very spiritually, and then I would do it and abuse it. You know what I mean? I was smoking
right,
DMT every single day. Like who the hell does that? Because
right. Yeah.
I was
I've
trying
met
to
people,
get to the most, I was trying to get to the most, just
doing it out of avoidance
place.
for real life. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's use and abuse are definitely two different things. And yeah, and it's
without a
funny
doubt.
because you can go down those routes and you find the ultimate answer kind of is like, oh, you can reach these states sober, and that's really the most powerful way to do it.
Right. With prayer, meditation, and just spending that time tapping into it. Really, being a good person. You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to too. It's like you know, karma
Then
and
you've got
everything.
this
That all taps
new
into it.
Yeah. Then you got this new space of these, it gets squirrely because then you've got all these manifestation gurus out there selling courses on how to manifest. And it's like,
Right.
where they're coming from. Yes. I think that's all very real stuff, but, yeah, I don't necessarily think you need to do, like, the $300 online course. Granted, a lot of these guys out there
No.
are really teaching you good meditation techniques and all this kind of stuff, but it can get a little squirrely out there too with that.
I mean, I remember reading like the book The Secret when that first came out. I remember reading the Four Agreements when that first came out.
Hmm.
I've also read the Bible front to back when I was sitting in jail. There is certain types of books that I would totally recommend to everybody
Yeah.
that you can learn from. And it all really ties back to like simple, you know, everyday
It's a
things, really.
it's a root, well, just like with nutrition, like what's the root cause of all these diseases? If you take all the top 10 religions in the world, like, let's go to the root of where this all came from. And
All right.
yeah, that you end up at these patterns, these teachings that
Mm-hmm.
have kind of been around since, human consciousness, and maybe it
Exactly.
even transcends human consciousness. Who knows?
Right.
That's a whole nother conversation, but
Right.
but yeah, there's something, the whole concept of faith is, you can talk about it different ways, but it's there's something to that, and understanding that there's more than just mind, body, and then there is this spiritual component, which is really, you start getting, again, going into the scientific side of it. It's this energetic component of what
Yeah.
potentially the whole universe is made out of, this conscious energy. And it's
Right.
you can tap into this, and it can create, when you're coming out of a crazy multi-decade addiction issue, you have to get energy from somewhere, and there is a place that
Right.
you can get it from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when your eyes are wide open and you're clear, like you can run into people all day long, and you can almost, people say it's, or whatever, but you can tell different people, like, whether they got a light on or not. You know what I mean? And it's
There's an
like,
exchange of
I,
energy. There is and they can measure it. I mean, this is measurable. There's an exchange of energy between people, and
yeah,
yeah, it's palpable. And then the more trained you are and more in tune to it, it gets easier and easier.
right. Yeah. It's wild stuff. I love it.
Well, what brought you into the emphasis of the exercise? So a year, it took you about 8, 9 months to get the dopamine levels starting to come back, and
Mm,
from that point, uh, we talk about adrenal levels too. Adrenals can really crash a lot with alcohol. So with the rebound time for that, it's gonna rebound. That's a good thing about the body. But as far as the timeline and what it meant to you and incorporating the exercise and nutrition, how did how did your at what point did your artwork experience increase, or the demand for your artwork increase? Was there a trigger that really started to propel your business? Because I mean, you got nearly, at the time of this recording, 100,000 followers on Instagram, and I'm pretty much 100% sure you didn't pay for followers. So just meeting the people that you've met and your business model and everything, is that really just been something that's grown in your brain?
I mean, getting sober helped a lot, because there's so many people that have been following my journey for a long time. And so they saw me at that point, and I was posting some wild shit. You know what I mean? Like, towards the end of my run, like, I was doing nitrous every single day, and like my brain was just fried, and I was saying some of the most off the wall crazy shit, you know, wanting to kill myself every single day. And then they saw this transformation. So it's like the amount of people that reach out to me, even 2 years later, are just like, wow, like you really inspired me, da 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 da. So it's phenomenal, to hear that and to be able to inspire people. But at the same time, like, I was able to put put so much more into practicing my craft and getting as good as I possibly could. Like, I mean, I was always, pretty good painter, but like, I don't know, I feel like I was able to take it to the next level once I got that clarity. You know what I mean? Like, my artwork just kind of transcended where it's at, like, better than it's ever been, I guess you could say. It was just like, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, um,
I can kind of test. I mean, my personal experience, I've never had serious issues, but I don't know. I've got the kind of classic ADHD thing going on, and that dopamine seeking behavior led me to being a huge fan of alcohol and other, substances. And
mhm,
I've always had all these goals I want to accomplish. I've always talked a big game. I've been talking about doing a podcast for like 4 years, and and I remember there was just this moment. I was sitting on the couch drinking a glass of bourbon after work one
mhm,
day, and I went up
right,
to the calendar and I just wrote January 1st, like no alcohol. And yeah, we're
oh,
6 months in completely. And again, there wasn't that there was this huge issue. It was just social drinking, but it was
right,
constantly ruining my momentum and kind of holding me back a little bit. And now I
mm,
was doing a personal experiment. I was going to quit drinking and using cannabis for 1 year. That was my goal. Now, what's going to
right.
happen at the end of the year? I don't know, but I can tell you no matter what, my relationship with alcohol will change permanently just because of
Oh,
what's
without a doubt.
happened so far in 6 months. My
Hmm.
productivity has just gone way up and I feel much more in control.
Yeah, without a doubt. And and it's gonna keep getting better and better. And like, I'll never look back. I know that. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, once you see this side of it, it's next level. It's like beyond my wildest dreams. Like, my life has gotten 1,000 times better in every single aspect. And it's like, why would I ever fuck that up? You
And
know?
even just which is amazing to hear, and even just from a simple health perspective, like there is no benefit to alcohol. Like the only argument you could make is a social lubricant, which would lead me to a question. Do you feel like you can still go out in social situations? And like, I mean, do you have a problem with that? Or once you
I
kind of get
mean,
out of it, does it almost make you better with in social situations?
no. I mean, that's the one thing that. So I've always dealt with like mental health issues such as depression and anxiety and panic attacks and stuff like that, and they are definitely escalated like in, big settings with a lot of people and stuff like that. So it's like social settings, I'm definitely not as sociable as I was before, when I was drinking, but I was also probably obnoxious. You know what I mean? Like now, if I'm out and about and at a social setting, like, I mean, I still go to concerts, I still, comedy shows or, going out with my family. I mean, they're all still pretty big drinkers, and I'm
Yeah.
being around it doesn't bother me. But the second I'm around somebody that's, got a good buzz on or whatever, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. It's like, it's annoying. You know what I mean? And I
It
remember
is,
being that annoying person.
yeah,
So it's like,
it is really
uh,
funny because I can, yeah, now even just the last 6 months, I'm like, oh shit, was that what I was doing? And I know I
that's
was.
right. Oh, absolutely. I thought I was like the funniest dude in the world. I thought I was, the life of the party all the time. But if I look back on videos that people have taken of me and shit like that, it's like, good God, I was a monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was nothing enjoyable about that,
You
you know?
usually look worse than you look good when, yeah, it's, you think you look good, but yeah, if you saw a video of it, it'd be a little embarrassing most of the time.
Yeah. Right, right.
So I've seen a lot of the
Mm.
guys you've been doing paintings for. So, I mean, are you, because I'm a big comedy fan, I saw that definitely comedy is one of those things that you enjoy.
It's something that, has helped me through so much. You know what I mean? Like laughter is the best medicine,
Yeah.
and when you know, ever since I started listening to like Theo and the Bad
Yeah. I
Friends
love Theo.
guys and Crystalia and just like all them great comedians out there, like it's just, I don't know, it brightens
Well,
up
and
my
a
day
lot of
every
them
day.
have their own stories. I mean, like Theo Vaughn, he's got his whole, story as far as dealing with addiction and drugs
Hmm.
and all that fun stuff. I mean, that's pretty common in the comedy world.
Oh,
Um,
without a
and
doubt.
and I think it's kind of cool. The comedy community has they've started talking about it more, and
Yeah, it's
with the
grown big
advent of
time.
Joe Rogan and all these, they're all becoming a lot more health conscious and
Hmm.
talking about it. And I think that's really cool, especially me being a big comedy
Yeah,
fan.
yeah, it's phenomenal. It really is. Like, I mean, I look up to a lot of those guys. You know what I mean? And the fact that they're able to use their gift, just like I do. It's like, I don't know. Like I have recently seen a lot of them in person. Like
Yeah.
it's truly awesome. You know what I mean?
Have you ever thought about
So,
doing stand up?
fuck no, absolutely not. I don't have that gift. I could barely hold a conversation for a little bit of time, let alone talk in front of people. Like, no,
I will say it's quite I've done
not
it a
me.
couple times at like open mics, and it is quite the I've done a lot of stuff, and just nothing has ever been more nerve-wracking than getting on stage and trying to make a silent crowd laugh. Like there's
Ugh,
mad respect to the comedians. It's
without a
definitely
doubt.
something else.
Yeah, I can sit and paint a canvas in front of thousands of
Yeah,
people. You know what I mean? That's about it,
for
though.
sure.
Usually I have headphones on and I'm in my own world, but that's how I bring my talent to the world.
And
So
you've got a couple of kids, right?
Yeah, I have two boys,
Okay.
13 and 11. About the couple days leaving up to get them for the summer. Um, they're in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, so it's like it's tough. You know what I mean? Like I don't get to see them every day, so FaceTimes, and then um, they spend their summers with me, and then I'm constantly flying back and forth to be with them. Any breaks they have from school, such like. So it's tough, but I don't know.
Well,
They're
So
growing up.
you can take them to working out now and show them what you got in the new gym.
Oh yeah. My one son, he's gotten into wrestling, so he's gotten into, trying to start messing around with weights. And my other son's a killer soccer star. He just because I grew up playing soccer, and so did my dad. And yeah, he just got, picked for like the A starting team for the middle school and stuff like that. So that's, it's definitely awesome watching them grow up. And my other son's a killer artist. Seeing his drawings, get better and progress is phenomenal. It's being a father is definitely something I was meant to do. I love it.
Amen. That's
yeah,
awesome,
I would
man.
imagine it's a little extra fuel on the fire to, keep it together
Yeah,
essentially.
without a doubt. And I mean, they've seen my transformation. They've seen me at my worst. You know what I mean? So it's like now I can inspire them to be, grow up to be the best men that they could possibly be. So maybe it wasn't all, horrible because they were able to see, the different sides of things, even though they're young. But like, you know, as long as I stay on this path, it's like a teaching lesson in its own.
Yeah, for sure. So during that kind of first year, um, were there any, I mean, how important were the people around you? Like, did you have a support system as far as close kind of inner circle relationships with people at that time that helped you?
So my fiance, we've been together for 6 years. On our 6 year anniversary, I proposed to her, so we're getting married in November. And
Congrats.
Yeah, congrats.
thank you, thank you. And she was with me during all that craziness and still stuck by my side. So like I owe the world to her. Right at that breaking point, which led me to being pretty much locked in the closet for 2 weeks. She was like, "I gotta fucking go. I gotta go away from you. This is just insane." Um, Thank God she stuck by my side, and now she's able to, see this side of me, and our relationship's just gotten amazing after the past 2 years, and there's no letting her down now. You know what I mean? It's like she's been my rock, so it's definitely huge. And my family's always been supportive, no matter what. So I definitely have a good, loving group of people around me.
Yeah, which I think is, yeah, that's obviously important. It just makes it that much harder without it.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to just people trying to get their diet together, like doing it with
Mm-hmm.
somebody, makes a difference.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So I'm curious from your perspective, because I've been trying to loop this in more, and it's kind of hard because I've never had any, like, I guess, serious addictions. I've dealt with this and that, but I mean, I think one of the biggest things we're dealing with right now in society with all these health problems is a legitimate bona fide food addiction, sugar addiction. It's addiction to processed food. And I mean, you could argue it's would be one of the hardest addictions to kick, because of how, just like alcohol, it's just everywhere. It's socially acceptable. It's normalized. And it's like, at the end of the day, people consider it food. So it's like, how can food be bad? I mean, do you see some of the parallels between something like drug and alcohol addiction to food addiction that's literally causing these chronic, terrible health conditions, obesity, overweight, and all this kind of stuff?
I mean, it's insane if you look at the world today. If you look at like, I remember seeing a picture of like the 1970s, a bunch of people on the beach, and then
Yeah.
today everybody was skinny, looking good, and then you got today, and everybody's just fat and just overweight or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's like it's all due to this bullshit that they're just pumping out and feeding the masses with. It's absolutely crazy. I think they're trying to kill us all, really. I mean,
I mean, it sure
population.
seems like that.
I
Or
mean, with
pump
the
us up with
population the way it
medication.
is, yeah, who knows what they're putting in all this shit. I mean, the I try my absolute hardest to eat just pretty much like whole foods. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the the farthest I stray really is like protein bars and stuff like that. I
Right.
mean, Um, but like, God,
Well,
I don't even remember the last time I had fast food of any kind.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I can tell you some of the patients that I see, some of the people that are having serious health issues because of their diet are actually ex alcoholics, ex drug addicts, or had some sort of addiction problem, or cigarettes. And they, again, they quit whatever that addiction was and they left that vacuum there and they filled it with
Mm-hmm.
high dopamine stimulating foods that then lead down to look a decade later from when they quit drinking and now they've got fatty liver disease because of sugar instead of alcohol. It's
Yeah,
really
right. I mean,
crazy.
sugar definitely. I still crave sugar like crazy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I still gotta have my cookies here and there. You know, chocolate chip cookies are my downfall. But like uh, I mean, I quit smoking like when I got sober as well. I still vape, which is fucking horrible, but it's my one last little vice I'm trying to kick. But I smoked cigarettes for 20 years and I stopped when I got sober as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you know, all those years in the rooms and stuff like that, you would see people chain smoking and drinking coffee and eating donuts and trying to fill it up. And
Fill
it's
the
like,
void.
I get it, but you're not doing the fucking work. The work is becoming the best version of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually. And that physical part is, it plays a huge role in how you feel, your mental health, and everything. And it's like, you know, you can't expect to feel good 100% if you're like fueling your body with shit. You know what I mean? It's like what you put in is what you get out. You
Yeah,
know?
100%. And that's where I think some of the work, I've kind of got more into the meditation. That's like a big one that I think is really
Hmm.
awkward for people to start doing. And again, you could substitute meditation for prayer, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of going internally and being, bringing emotions, especially positive emotions, to the surface on purpose and doing the work internally to rewire your brain because,
But
we,
they call it a practice for a reason. You know what I
right.
mean? Like it takes practice to get to that point of sitting there quieting your mind for a half an hour a day, which I recommend.
It's
But
not easy.
start out with five,
Yeah.
start out with six, you know, next, you know, and just set goals for yourself. If you're not setting goals for yourself, you're not looking at progression and like you need to progress or you're going to die. Like I,
You're
I
yeah,
look
you're
at it
kind of
like
going
that.
you're going forwards or backwards. It definitely seems
Yeah.
that way.
This world's fucking crazy. You need to be a warrior. You need to be a badass. Like there is no just sitting around and waiting things to happen to you. Like you have to go after your goals. You have to go after what you want. And if you want a good life, you want to, you know, feel good, you need to do what it takes. And it's like a lot of people aren't willing to go that extra mile or you know what I mean? And it's like I feel bad for them, but at the same time it's like
Yeah, and I think on that note, it's kind of, I know in the past I've always maybe talked more than I should because I'm like I realize that talking at people doesn't really do anything. You kind of have to just lead by example and be there
that's
for when someone then has a question, then you get to answer. But I used to kind of just talk, and yeah, I think I just annoyed people when I did that.
I did this painting in a rehab years and years and years ago, and it was like a person in a canoe, and they had a light, and they were heading like across a lake or something, and you know you had all these people behind them in a canoe, and it was like you know that light represented like the light that you have within you, and people are always going to try and you know jump in your canoe and try and tilt you over. You know, people are always going to try and you know steal that light from you or borrow it or you know whatever. And it's like it's
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 the
huge
crabs in a
to
bucket phenomenon.
you got to keep your distance. You know what I mean? But I mean, I also believe in helping people. Like I'm always here to talk with anybody or help them in any way that I possibly can because I would want to share what I have and that's why I love sharing my story because it's like Um, inspiring people is next level. Like, I'm so happy that I'm able to do that.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
definitely a gift that you had to earn for sure. And whether it's, drugs, alcohol, or even I do like tying it back into these people struggling with weight loss and struggling with, body image and just chronic health conditions. Like if you could do what you did, I know for a fact you can change your diet.
Yeah.
Like it's not a whether you can or can't do it. It's are you
Yeah.
going to do it? And
Yeah.
are you
yeah,
going to have that mindset change? And, are you going to do it?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just like commitment. Like some people I meet with, they're like, I need you to keep, me motivated. It's like it's not my job to motivate you. You have to find it within yourself and stop saying you're going to start Monday. Start today if it matters for you. Don't go out and like gorge yourself, eat the last supper, and then here I am. Like that's not what it's about. It's you got and did everything up to this point, and now you're making a life change. So
And I've done that method. This is my last go round. I'm gonna go ahead and really go all out today. And what that does is it creates the roller coaster cycle, which it's just like you want your blood sugar to be stable. You don't doing that up and down thing. It just keeps you in that mindset of well, I'll be good for a little while and then it'll get bad again. And again, I've dealt with that. I've always dealt with that, especially when it comes to the kind of diet and exercise type of stuff. And then over the
yeah.
years, I've gotten it more and more steady and more stable, where it's just like you got to make a new normal. You have to change. Part of changing is becoming a different person. And I think a lot of people start to feel uncomfortable when they start to shed old parts of themselves. And the second they start to change, then their friend is there like, well, why are you doing that? Like, and it makes everybody around them even uncomfortable, but that's almost the sign that you are in the right direction.
Yes, absolutely is. I mean, it's like, oh man, like you were just saying, I feel like once anyone gets over that first hump of uncomfortability, like then once you start seeing any of the benefits, it's just like, then you become addicted to
Good
or
addiction.
whatever. Like, yes, like you start to feel better. You want that more and more and more. And it's like if I miss a day of working out, I feel like shit. It's
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? I can't wait to get to the gym as soon as we're done this call.
And then
And
the
it's like I
goal is
never
not to,
in a million years would have thought that.
yeah, and then the goal is not to let one bad day snowball, because I've dealt with that. I know tons of people deal with that. It's like, oh well, I fucked up this day, forget it. I'm just gonna
Right.
fail, and then they go right back into those bad habits. You got to be ready for the occasional bad day. I mean, it happens, but yeah, that
Yeah.
initial change period I think is really uncomfortable, because it's just you're conditioned, your body's conditioned, your mind's conditioned, and even though you're doing
Hmm.
something good, it's you're addicted to bad feelings, which is crazy. Like you can be addicted to being miserable, like
Oh
uh,
my God, yeah.
so it's uncomfortable when you start to change that, especially if it's something you're trying to change that's a habit that's been 20 years, 30 years, whatever
Right.
it is. The longer the habit's been there, the more uncomfortable it is to change.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why misery loves company. Like people
Yeah,
that are miserable
exactly.
or depressed, all they're trying to do is bring somebody else in their boat with them. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like, hey,
and that goes back to that whole energetic aura, whatever you want to call it.
right.
Miserable energy attracts miserable energy,
yeah.
and vice versa.
Well, what
Without a
are
doubt.
some takeaways, Dave, that you have if you want to tell our listeners, just kind of summing up everything that you've experienced and things not necessarily that you could go back in time and change, but just as a inspiration.
I mean, do I wish I figured this out, years before? Yes. Can I change that? No. Like, it is what it is, and I learned lessons from my darkness. Like, I'm so happy that I went through what I went through in order to see this side. You can't enjoy a sunny day without some rainy days, and yeah, I experienced way more rainy days than most, but it's like I don't know. The future looks so bright, and if I can help anybody, I absolutely will. And it's like anybody that's in that struggling space, just don't beat yourself up. I used to do that all the time. Give yourself, a little, just breathe and get through it. And I don't like the slogan one day at a time, but it really is true. Like you just, as long as you can get through that day, that next day is going to be a little bit better, then a little bit better, then a little bit better. It's just like,
Momentum.
yeah, like you just keep trying your best, whatever it is. If you gotta journal, I think journaling's huge. If you gotta just write some stupid things and hang them around your house, just little positive sayings, things to like keep your brain active. I think staying busy is huge. Like focusing on a hobby or a craft or whatever it is. You just because I think for me especially, like downtime is the devil's playhands. Like it's just like I don't I stay as active as I possibly can, and that's huge. So I mean, don't give up. That's one of the biggest things. I've wanted to give up so much of my life, and I'm so happy that I'm still here today to even talk and share this message.
Well, we are too, man. And I know it's making a big impact to a lot of listeners, and it's something that'll be stamped in time for years and years for everybody to hear and grow from in their own specific journey. So thank you for
Without a
your time
doubt.
and for being here.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think those were
absolutely.
all
Thank you guys.
amazing finishing points. Yeah, they're staying busy. That might be the number one right there.
Yeah, it is.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you or to contact you?
Um, Definitely Instagram or Facebook, which is just at Blest Design. Um, I think the last podcast I was on, I gave out my cell number, which is crazy, but um, yeah, I mean my website's right on my Instagram. Facebook's Dave Blanch, or Blest Design, either one. You can contact me. I'm a very reachable person, so it's like you send me a message, I'm going to answer you. You know.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll definitely put it at the end of the details too in the description of this episode. So thanks again,
Awesome.
brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate you, Dave.
Absolutely.